Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Vicente.
And this is Izzy.
And welcome back to the IV Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, we are still continuing our Spider-Verse marathon. And now we're at Andrew Garfield's last Spider-Man movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, before we get into our discussion and review, we're just testing out some new footage with their phone camera, with the back camera. So I'm sorry in advance if I kind of look away or if it seems like I'm looking away. I'm trying to look directly at the camera. Izzy says I'm looking good, but I'll take her word for it.
Yeah, so this is just our us testing water. So hopefully this will look a lot better than our previous videos.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then this Sunday we're actually going to have a background, green screen. So it's going to be awesome. It'll be more interactive. But yeah, anyways, Izzy, Amazing Spider-Man 2. What the hell? Okay, I'm just going to say it before you say anything. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm going to be honest. I used to really, really dislike Amazing Spider-Man 2. But over the years, with rewatches, I kind of grown to love it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And with the help of No Way Home, it definitely makes me appreciate it more. But Izzy, I still feel like this movie gets held back so much.
Yeah. For me, this was my first time watching it, but I can agree it definitely holds back a lot when it comes to Andrew Garfield's character. I feel like sometimes the story doesn't know where it's going to go fully, but I think some of the parts of the story that they do tell are done really well.
Oh, yeah, and it sucks because I talked to a fan, Ty. What's up, man? What's up, Ty? He messaged me and we were talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he brought up a good point that Sony has Amazing Spider-Man moments in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 to where it's like it's out of the comics, but they mess up. And the thing with this movie is that Sony was so focused on trying to start their own version of the MCU with future spin-off plans, future sequels planned, and characters, but it just never pans out very well, and it just feels oversaturated. And the thing is that this movie is a worse version of Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This movie reminds me a lot of Spider-Man 3. I wanted to do way too much in too little time. And I think if they would have stuck with one or two villains instead of how many that they stuck with this one, I think it would have done a lot better.
Oh, yeah. I always say that Electro should have been the main villain. Just Electro, because, at least with Lizard, it felt normal. But then Harry Osborn as Green Goblin, I'm sorry, that is, no disrespect to Dane DeHaan, but this movie, it didn't need Green Goblin. I don't even think it needed Rhino. But, it's like I said, Sony tried to cram so much into this movie and let it be a movie on its own. And because of it, Andrew Garfield gets screwed over. And this kills the Amazing Spider-Man franchise.
Exactly. They just wanted to they wanted to prep so much for the future, they didn't worry about the present, and that's what their downfall was.
Yeah, it sucks, because this movie had potential. I remember when the hype around this movie, when it was coming out, people said that this is going to be better than Spider-Man 2. And I'm going to admit, Izzy, I thought it would have been better than Spider-Man 2. Yeah, because this had a perfect setup. You have Jamie Foxx as Electro. That's an Oscar-winning actor right there. With Andrew Garfield's acting, that's just a recipe for a perfect movie. But like I said, Sony just tried forcing so much, and Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield, when they were promoting this movie, they even kept saying, the studio wanted to do this and that, and kind of shot down our ideas. And that's a red flag right there. That is a huge major red flag right there.
Yeah. It sucks when studios interfere, and I feel like this is the second time in the Spider-Man franchise Sony's interfered, and then we end up with the same negative result, and I wish they've learned their lesson.
I mean, they haven't really. I mean, we're getting Spider-Man villain spin-off movies without Spider-Man. I mean, we're getting an Ellen Wertfeld movie, and he was only in one page in a comic book, and it's so stupid. But anyways, before we get off topic, let's get into The Amazing Spider-Man 2 positives and negatives. And Izzy, before we get into that, what would you rate this movie?
I think I would, for my first time watching it and taking in the full story, I think I would give it a solid 7.
Ooh, you're way too nice. I guess it's a 6.
A 6?
Yeah, it's 6. And it's not me hating on it, because I do love Andrew Garfield. But like I said, this movie is held back from its potential. The one thing I love about this movie is the new comic accurate suit. It is amazing. And, of course, we get more Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, but even then they kind of act like a toxic high school couple.
True, but I mean, I feel like the relationship is still cute when they're not being toxic to each other.
Yeah, I guess. But like I said, I give this movie a 6 out of 10. Izzy, you said 7 out of 10.
Yep.
All right, should we get into our positives and negatives now?
I think we should.
All right, so starting off with our positive list, our first positive, the new costume is amazing and the second most comic accurate suit. Now, the reason why they never continued the suit from the first movie was because rumor has it that the first suit from the first Amazing Spider-Man didn't look good in daylight, which I think is kind of a dumb thing to say because it did look good in the daylight. And so in this movie, we get a lot more daytime scenes with the new Spider-Man costume, and it is awesome. I remember when they released a photo of the new costume, I was fucking fangirling. It was just so cool and awesome.
Yeah, I think the new suit really suits Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I think seeing it in the daylight I think just makes the costume shine even more. And it's probably like one of my favorite Spider-Man suits.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
I would say this is like top 5 suits for me. It's good. Yeah, it kind of looks like a little bit like Tobey Maguire's suit, but honestly, I think this suit's way better than any of his other suits. I'll go on record and say that. Yeah,
wow.
Hell yeah, it's good. He gets new web shooters, and it sucks that this is one of the few things good about this movie, but I will tip my hat off for a whole new costume and a whole new web shooter design.
Yeah, I think the web shooter design is something that's really unique, especially since we haven't got Tom Holland yet. Seeing the development of the web shooters in all of Andrew Garfield's movie, I think is really cool about this Spider-Man adaptation.
Oh yeah, and like I said, it's just cool to see him go from this costume from the first movie into this brand new comic accurate costume. So I will give that as a positive. And now with our second positive, Jamie Foxx as Max Dillon, aka Electro. Now, I remember when Jamie Foxx got announced that he was going to be Max Dillon, a lot of people were pissed. I was telling Izzy this on our rewatch, was that people were saying, oh, Electro's not black. Okay, well, the dude, who cares? He's an Oscar-winning actor. He's gonna bring something to the table, and even though his character is kind of whack, he seems a little too obsessed with Spider-Man, like kind of like almost like a stalkerish type of guy. Jamie Foxx still gives it his all, especially when he's finally Electro.
Yeah, no, I think he does a great job playing Electro watching it for the first time. And the first time I actually saw him as Electro was in No Way Home, so seeing his origin story in this movie, I think just makes his character that much better. And just his passion behind the character for being an A-list actor, I think is just great.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx, I remember Jamie Foxx was so hyped. And he kind of spoiled his appearance in No Way Home and stuff like that. But yeah, I tip my hat off to Jamie Foxx. Yeah, some of his character dialogue was just weird, especially the scene to where he's celebrating his own birthday and he thinks Spider-Man's there and he got him a cake. Even though it's kind of like a sad little scene, I still give Jamie Foxx a lot of credit, just because that would be a hard scene to pull off. I'd be busting out laughing and be like, this is so weird. But I tip my hat off to Jamie Foxx. You did an amazing job, dude.
Yeah, you did a great job, and I think it just shows how versatile of you are as an actor, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, and then seeing you in No Way Home, a whole different personality. Is like, oh, okay, damn, you're good. But Jamie Foxx has always been a good actor. He's always been one of my favorites.
Same here.
All right, and now with our third positive, we finally get to see Spider-Man being the actual friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There's so many scenes in this movie to where he's helping out random people in the neighborhood. One of my favorites is when he stops these bullies from trying to beat up a kid in the alleyway, and he walks them home, and I just love that. That's what I mean. That's what I mean when I talk to my friend Ty about that. Sony has all these amazing Spider-Man moments, but they just don't know how to execute them well. But this is one of the few ones I will accept. And it's just so awesome to see him ask the kid's name, walk him home, and that's who Spider-Man is.
Yeah, seeing him interact with the neighborhood on a personal level as Spider-Man is something we want to see as an audience. We want to see the humanity of Spider-Man in these scenes, and the way he just fixes his project and is so proud of him. Can you imagine being that little kid? It's such a really cute scene, but also a heart-touching scene as well.
Oh yeah, and another scene I like in the movie too is when Spider-Man teams up with the firefighters and uses a water hose to put down Jamie Foxx for a little bit. And he has a fireman helmet on. And I love that scene. Even though it's kind of cheesy and dumb, it shows that Spider-Man is always going to help out no matter who you are. And I love that. And that goes, with Andrew Garfield's passion for the character, because he said that he wants to make the Spider-Man the real friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and he did an amazing job. Even though it's a shame it was just for 2 movies, I will say, when it comes to being Spider-Man in that neighborhood, he takes the cake easily.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's so nice seeing how friendly he is with all of like the first responders and the kids in the neighborhood. It's just like a breath of fresh air when it comes to Spider-Man.
Yeah, and Andrew Garfield, you do not get enough love, man. I mean, yeah, you do because of No Way Home, but back then people hated on you. Just know that I was one of your very few supporters to where, yeah, I wasn't a very big fan of this movie when it first got released, but I don't blame you. I blame more of the studio interference.
Yeah, I agree. I think No Way Home definitely redeemed you, but I do not agree you deserved all the hate that you got.
Yeah, and I'm glad you got redeemed finally. Yeah. And that's actually going to lead into our 4th and last positive. Andrew Garfield literally carries his movie on his back. And when I say he does, he really, really does. He gives it his all. Even though, like I said, there is some dialogue in this movie that is like kind of cringy and kind of Andrew Garfield still does his best, whether it's his banter with Aunt May about, we don't have a chimney. What? That scene where he's all dirty and stuff. Or he wants to wash his Spider-Man costume in the laundry. It's just all these moments that Andrew Garfield really shines in this movie.
Yeah, I think in this movie you really see his passion behind playing this character, and it shines through the screen. And I think it's just a great way that he connects with the audience, showing that he loves this character so much and that we love him.
And then when Gwen Stacy dies, granted, that's one of my negatives, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But you can feel his raw emotion. He really acts like someone important died to him. And I know it's his job, but it's good.
Yeah, I agree. His acting in that scene is chef's kiss.
Yeah, like I said, Andrew Garfield doesn't get a lot of love when it comes to acting himself. I mean, yes and no, but Andrew Garfield, you are an amazing actor, and you really did carry this franchise on your back. And it's a shame what happened, but I'm glad you're back, and I hope we see you in Secret Wars.
Or in the next Spider-Man, Amazing SpiderMan 3.
I hope. Shoot, I want a Spider-Man 4 and Amazing Spider-Man 3.
That would be so cool if they finally did that.
I hope so. All right. Izzy, that does it with our positives. And like I said, I gave this movie a fair chance, and I did. And as much as I love it a little bit more, I found a little bit more problems in this movie, and we're going to talk about our negatives. Okay, so starting off with our first negative, the opening scene with Peter's parents in the airplane. Now, when I saw this in theaters for the first time, I was confused, like, wait, am I watching a Spider-Man movie? But of course you do little flashbacks to Peter Parker as a kid. But it just feels weird having a Spider-Man movie. It feels like it's something out of a James Bond movie.
Yeah, I feel like the scene was very out of place, especially since we really only got the connection to this story from the beginning of the first Amazing Spider-Man. So it was really out of place, and like part of me wishes they continued on and like explored this part of the story, but since they didn't, I don't think it should have even been in the movie. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like, it's like I say, it just doesn't feel like it's supposed to be in a Spider-Man movie, and they're making dumb choices, like the assassin kills the pilot. It's like, okay, well, you're going to kill yourself then. Yeah, you had a parachute, but even then, it's like, your plan doesn't work, Peter's dad is being dumb. Peter's mom gets shot. It's just a whole mess that doesn't make any type of sense. Yeah, that scene was just overall really awkward, and I just don't think it should have been in the movie, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'd rather have the movie open with, him falling down the sky and we see the back of his logo on his suit. Yeah, that would have been a better opening, but that's actually our second negative. And our second negative is also the opening scene when it finally shows Spider-Man. And yeah, he's being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man by, stopping these criminals. But he's joking around while innocent people are dying. And I get it. The character of Spider-Man is supposed to be a quipster. He's supposed to be kind of a jokester to help himself keep calm when he's fighting villains. But in this moment, these villains are carrying radioactive stuff that are bombs that will go off and destroy a whole city block. and he's kind of messing around. And there's a scene, an opening scene with Spider-Man and the Rhino and his henchmen, to where they're going down an alleyway and they're crashing into dumpsters, cars, and other stuff. And it's like, dude, people are dying right now, and you're over here like making a joke and like knocking on his front window, trying to shake his hand. It's like, dude, the Spider-Man I know from the comics just would have ripped that dude from the truck and webbed him up.
Exactly. Like, while I was first watching that scene, all I could think of were all the cars getting into accidents because of this one truck. He was just like making all these quips, and I'm just like, what about the people in the cars? Like, can you imagine how much damage that did to them?
Yeah, and let's just say some of these people didn't die. Well, it's like, their car insurance is going to go up, just everything. So, I mean, I get what they're trying to go for, and I appreciate them making Spider-Man a quipster too, but at the same time, that was a scene where I felt like he should have really, really tried being a little bit more serious, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think the quips were okay, but I think his actions should have been more serious. He still could have made the quips, just his actions be more serious and more precautious when it came to the neighborhood people.
I will say the one scene I did like, which would have been perfect if they kept that tone throughout the whole chase scene, was when he finally catches a Rhino and the Rhino is shooting his gun at him and he, webs him up and stuff. I wish that was a perfect blend of like being serious, but also having fun too. And that should have been the tone for the entire chase scene. But no, it's like I said, it's that old, it was very MCU humor inspired, if you get what I'm trying to say. And now number 3 on our negative list, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy kind of feel like a high school toxic couple. And I know they graduate in this movie, so they're going to be a little immature. But when you watch the relationship in the first movie, granted, they were just friends and not really a real couple, they actually have better chemistry. In this one, they're always on and off. And that's one of the things that kind of bothered me about the first movie, was that, he makes his promise to Captain Stacy, the Gwen's dad, that he's going to leave Gwen out of his life. But then he goes back on his word, and it's like, that's not really Spider-Man either. But in this movie, they're always on and off, And, Gwen mentions, my dad made you promise to keep me out of your life, huh? And they're always on and off in this movie. One scene, they're breaking up. One scene, they're getting back together. And the next, right after that, they're breaking up and then finally getting together. And it's like, dude, you guys are not right for each other. F that. Just go find Mary Jane or something.
Yeah, I feel like it was karma whenever Andrew broke the promise. It was just karma for like the whole relationship, and the fact that he couldn't make up his mind, I think, had a lot to do with how toxic their relationship was, because she knew exactly what she wanted. She was like, you either have me and break the promise, or we're just not together, because she didn't want to deal with it anymore, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, and I know I said I prefer Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy over Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane, but at least Mary Jane was never that toxic. At least she understood that Peter gets busy and that, sometimes Peter can't always be there. Gwen Stacy just gives him a fucked up ultimatum, and what do you think Peter's going to choose? He's going to choose being Spider-Man. He was willing to keep that promise, but, you kept guilt-tripping him, and it's like, that's not his fault. But, Peter is always at fault, too, because he's like, yeah, no. Peter is always just trying to justify his action. He's like, oh, well, I promised your dad. Well, then keep to your promise and stop going back on your word.
Exactly. Either stick with one thing and let her go, or stay with her and come to your senses and understand you did break the promise, but you're still going to pursue the relationship.
Yep, I agree. Would you?
Yeah.
All right. And number 4 on our negative list, and we talked about it a little bit, but now we'll get more into detail. Number 4 is that this movie tries setting up so many spin-off films and future sequels that it just isn't a movie on its own. And what I love about the Tobey Maguire trilogy was that they were just movies on their own. Granted, I don't think they had any plans for a Sinister Six film or a Venom film. Maybe, I could be wrong. But even then, their movies just felt very personal, and that's what I like. In this movie, we get Felicia Hardy, a.k.a. Black Cat. We get a tease of Vulture's wings, Doc Ock's tentacles. There's even a deleted scene where we get to see the Venom symbiote. And we have the Rhino in this movie. Granted, he gets his suit at the end of the movie. And it's just a cluster mess. And we get Alistair Smith. Alistair Smith, one of Spider-Man's biggest rogues in his gallery. He creates the Spider Bots, the Spider Slayers, to kill Spider-Man. Because I think he gets powers in the comics. I'm not too sure. I could be wrong too. But you're setting all this up for future films or just spin-offs but it's not working out because you're having all these big names and they're meaningless cameos at this point.
Yeah, it was way too much for this 2-hour movie to have all these different villains. It should have just stuck with one and focus on that storyline and that character arc, and I think this story would have been like 100% better and like taken more better by the audience as well.
Yeah, and I get that they were trying to build to the Sinister Six and give them their own movie, but build up to it. If you really wanted multiple villains, just do two then. Just do Electro and Rhino. That would have been fine. The Rhino opening scene and ending, and then just have Electro as the main antagonist, and then save Green Goblin for your third film and build up that character with Harry Osborn. But no, it's like we said, Sony was just so focused on trying to compete with the MCU that they clusterly fucked up so badly, and that they have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah, they just messed up, and I hope someday that they learn their lesson when it comes to movies like this.
Honestly, I think eventually they'll probably just give all the rights to Spider-Man to Marvel. It's only a matter of time, before I'm pretty sure Disney will probably buy them out. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, do you think that'd be a good thing or a bad thing?
Honestly, probably a good thing, just because Marvel kind of knows what they're doing with their characters too.
True.
Granted, they're kind of a hit and miss right now, but we're sticking with Spider-Man right now before we get off topic.
Yeah.
But just to answer your question, Izzy, I do feel like it'd be a little better if they owned all the Spider-Man characters to where they can do their own story, But even then, I can't appreciate what Sony did do for the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. But the fact that you guys really tried setting up all these future spin-offs and future sequels with these characters, it ended up biting you in the ass.
Yeah, it did, unfortunately. So, I mean, maybe someday we'll see it paid off, or Disney will just own the rights at the very end.
We'll see, we'll see. I guarantee they're building up to Sinister Six, and it's gonna fail.
Yeah, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
All right, and number 5 on our negative list, Peter Parker and Harry Osborn are supposedly best friends since childhood. But Peter Parker doesn't know anything about Oscorp in the first movie. That is such a big plot hole that's very hard to ignore. And I remember I told Izzy, I made her pause the movie right when Peter meets Harry. I told her, you remember how Peter Parker knew nothing about Oscorp and it was so new to him in the first movie? Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah. I'm all like, how does he know Harry? And it took her a while to understand it, but then when she did, she went, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, that is when I finally realized that was such a big plot hole. I'm like, how the heck did they even do that? Because it doesn't make sense. Like, I understand he was away from boarding school, but like, how did you not put his last name together with his dad's company? Like, how did you not know that was his dad?
But like, even then, Osborn, like, you should know. And I'm pretty sure Harry's dad has had this company since they were kids. You had to have known that was the Osborn. So it's just a big ass plot hole that always bothers me on a rewatch, especially with the first movie when he acts like, oh, I never heard of Oscorp, or like it's something new. It's like, dude, don't say that, because it's just a big ass plot hole. I hate it. I don't want to say anymore because it's starting to frustrate the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, the plot hole I definitely did not like the plot hole, and I honestly don't think there is a way for them to like fix it. So it's something that we're just gonna have to accept, honestly.
Yeah, like on probably another rewatch, I'm gonna tell Izzy, I hate this scene.
Yeah,
I really do. Don't act like you know what Oscorp is when you had no idea about them in the first movie.
Exactly. You should just put 2 and 2 together. But you know what? We're not gonna blame the actor. We're gonna blame the writing.
All right, and this negative, I'm very excited to talk about. I told Izzy about it. When we were making our negative list. Our 6th negative is that Harry Osborn looks like the 7-Eleven crackhead and acts like the 7-Eleven crackhead. Now, this isn't me hating on Dane DeHaan. He is a good actor in other movies. I enjoy his work. But I'm sorry, you're not Green Goblin. You look like an unused Power Rangers villain concept. It just doesn't look good. James Franco was a better Green Goblin. And hell, he wasn't even Green Goblin. He was New Goblin in the Spider-Man 3. But in just this one, it doesn't feel like he's earned the right to be Green Goblin.
Yeah, it seems way too sudden, and it wasn't built up correctly. when you're just looking at the character, but the character design, it just looks like he's covered in like this weird green slime and just
He looks like a troll.
yes, he looks like a short hair, spiny haired troll.
Yeah, and the reason why I say 7-Eleven crackhead, because it literally does look like the crackhead you would see at a 7-Eleven asking you for change, not making fun of homeless people. Oh, another thing I want to bring up. So in this movie, Harry is dying from this disease. This is the reason why he took the Oz formula to cure his body. But it made him go insane. But earlier in the movie, he says that Spider-Man's blood will cure him. Now, we don't know if that's true because he never tested out.
Mm-hmm.
Peter says no, because Harry knows that Peter takes photos of Spider-Man and he thinks that Peter knows who Spider-Man is. And he asks Peter, please get Spider-Man over here. I want to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Peter, as Spider-Man, straight up goes to Harry's mansion, dressed as Spider-Man, just to tell him no, and that is too dangerous. That is the most effed up thing I have ever seen.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most effed up scenes that I've seen with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, I didn't understand his reason on why not even to try. Like, I don't think there was any reason for him not to try. It's not like he was giving him his DNA. It was just his blood just to test it. So that plot never made sense to me on why he didn't just let him have his blood and try it.
Well, like, even then, like, you say it's bad, it might do what happened to Connors. Kirk Connors experimented with reptilian blood. Mm-hmm. Your blood is different. The least you can do is just give it to him and test it out and be right there. So in case he does try to, take it, you're right there to stop him. But it's more the mere fact that you're his best friend and you came dressed as Spider-Man just to tell him no again.
Exactly.
I can't really blame Harry for looking like the 7-Eleven crackhead now. Shoot, I would too. Like, and attack Peter if he refused to give me, his blood to help cure me. But yeah, like I said, just Harry Osborn in this movie just doesn't feel like he's given that title of Green Goblin correctly.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have built up to it more, and then they should have given him the mantle. But the way that they did in this movie, it just is really awkward.
Yeah, so yeah, Harry Osborn as Green Goblin in this movie, it sucks. And it was spoiled in the posters and trailers. Like, you can at least make it a surprise. Like this next negative number 7, Gwen Stacy should have lived, and her death was spoiled in the trailers. How do you spoil a major death in the trailer? That is rule number 1. Do not spoil anything major. And I'm sorry, killing Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy off in the sequel in the second movie was the dumbest thing Sony ever did with this movie. You should have had her live until the third movie, to where you had Norman Osborn come back as Green Goblin and fulfill that comic book death that Green Goblin gave to Gwen Stacy. Mm-hmm. Although technically Spider-Man was the one that used the finishing blow.
Yeah, that is one thing that was so weird about this movie, is that them deciding to kill Gwen Stacy off, especially like she was still mourning her dad and then she dies. Like, I feel like that was such a weird plot twist in this movie. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it because I felt like her character had so much more potential.
God, yeah. Hell, it's so much more story, and like you said, it's more the fact that Sony spoiled it in the movie marketing, in the trailers. You dropped the ball right there. The minute I found out that I didn't have to look up a trailer breakdown video. It literally showed Gwen dying in one of the trailers. I'm like, dude, what the hell? And then the next shot was Andrew Garfield screaming while holding her. I'm like, oh my God, you really spoiled it. What's the point of me even watching this movie then? Would I have liked it better if I was surprised if they never spoiled it? No, I wouldn't have been surprised, but I would have been a little bit more accepting, I guess. I wouldn't have time to, think about it. But yeah, no, your marketing team dropped the ball on that one, bud.
Yeah, I think that if I watched the trailer for the first time, I think that would have like really pissed me off, and I don't even know if I would have gone and watched the movie, because it's like, why watch it when we already know the major plot points in the movie?
Yeah, and that's the problem with a lot of trailers today. They spoil it a lot. Mm-hmm. Scream 6.
So glad we don't watch them.
Oh yeah, I'm glad we didn't watch the trailer. All right, and now number 8 on our negative list. This movie had way too many villains. It should have just stuck to 1 or 2, and that it became a worse version of Spider-Man 3 could have became. And this is what I said. It could tie into the whole. It tried to set up future spinoff and future sequels. We see Doc Ock's tentacle arms. We see the vulture wings. We see the rhino suit. We see the Venom symbiote in a deleted scene,
Mhm.
and it's like, Sony, what the hell are you trying to do? Why are you trying to set up all these future movies when you have this movie to focus on to where it could be better than Spider-Man 2? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, we should have got the one story with Electro and Spider-Man, possibly Rhino, and that was it. That's what we should have focused
Hmm.
on, not all the other Sinister Six, just those two characters. And I think this movie would have been taken by as the audience a lot better than what it was.
Hmm. I agree. I really agree. It sucks. Like we said, it should have been Electro and Rhino, and that's it. If you really wanted to do Harry Osborn as Green Goblin, you could at least build it up in this movie and
Mhm.
then have it in the third movie. Hell, you could make Harry in a twist the Hobgoblin, even though it's Ned Leeds, that's the Hobgoblin in the
Mhm.
comics. You could have had like a father-son duo. That would have been a better story for number 3. And maybe introduce the Black Suit. I don't know. Anything would have been better than what you have planned for this movie, Sony. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound like a hater because I love Andrew Garfield and I really, really do like this movie. Not a lot. I accept it. But my God, Sony, you really fumbled the bag on this movie.
Yeah, you guys did.
All right. And number 9 on our negative list, this isn't really like in the movie itself and context. This is more of like the events leading up to Andrew Garfield's getting fired. And this is our 9th negative. Andrew Garfield literally getting fired because of the failure of this movie and getting blamed for its underperformance at the box office. Now, Sony assumed that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was going to break $1 billion. And it didn't, obviously, because we
Mhm.
just listed why. But it made somewhere around like 700 mil, and that's still good for a movie.
Yeah.
But Sony said that was, it underperformed because of all the marketing, even though you literally spoiled the death of Gwen Stacy, so that's on you, buddy. You spent so much money on this movie, but even then you earn a good profit back. But then Andrew Garfield got sick during before an important Sony conference meeting that supposedly it was going to reveal that his franchise was going to be connected to the MCU, or I don't know. That's a rumor. But what we do know is that since Andrew Garfield never showed up to that conference meeting, they fired him because of that. But rumor has it too that they were going to fire him after Amazing Spider-Man 2 because of how bad it did critically and financially.
See, that's ridiculous to me to fire someone over just for missing a meeting because they were sick. Like, people get sick, and then why blame him, the actor, for the bad reviews and like for not doing well in the office? Because there are so many. The actor is just going off what the writers wrote.
The dialogue, everything. Like, I wish Sony would have just taken a step back and look at what they did. Because this isn't on Andrew Garfield. This isn't on Emma Stone. This isn't on Jamie Foxx. It's not even on Dane DeHaan. This was all on you guys. You guys try to force so much into this movie. And then dumb dialogue. It doesn't make sense. All these storylines, the Electro storyline, the Rhino storyline, the Green Goblin storyline, Peter and Gwen breaking up storyline, getting back together. You don't know how to balance it out. I mean, yeah, I kind of give the MCU a little crap for having so many storylines, but at least you know how to juggle it. You guys, yeah, Sony could have made future spinoffs and future sequels and build up to it, but you have to learn how to be a movie on your own.
Exactly. They should have taken a step back and realized that they put way too much in this movie and that they need to build up more in order for it to be successful. And to fall on the actors and blame it on them is just wrong to me. It makes me so mad when this type of things happens to actors, because it is not their fault. It is the writings, it is the story, not the actor.
Yeah. And Andrew Garfield, I'm sorry you got so much hate for so many years over this movie. Like I said, just know that even though I wasn't a fan of this movie when it first came out, I still supported you, and I'm still waiting for the Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
I hope we get it after Secret Wars, of course. And now for our final negative, like we said, is that really, or it's actually kind of the movie itself, but our final negative is that this movie still leaves a lot to be desired, like, finding Uncle Ben's killer. We never find out. And then the whole mystery parent storyline that they had in the first movie that supposedly was going to be this big story in the trilogy, it literally ends in the opening scene. Because you see what happens in Peter Parents. They die. They just die. and it's never really touched upon again. I mean, yeah, Peter finds recordings of his dad, in the subway station and all this stuff, blah blah blah. But even then, it's like they just completely forget about it. And like, we don't want to do it no more. And it's so dumb, and he leaves so much to be desired. And and Izzy hates this too. She did not like the way this movie ended.
Oh yeah, I thought this movie ended so abruptly, and the fact they ended it on like a weird fight scene, and I knew after Gwen Stacy died, I knew they were gonna end it really weirdly. But even though I knew that, I still did not like it at all. It felt really open ended, and then the fact we're never getting or we haven't gotten the trilogy for it,
Mm-hmm.
it just even weirder, and it leaves his story untold, and which is why I really hope there is an Amazing Spider-Man 3. And I know I'm a late fan, but I'm still a fan, and I still want to see it.
Yeah, and the fact that Sony was planning to like scrap the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, even though it had an ending like that, that is like one of the dumbest things you can do. Honestly, I know it sounds like we're hating on Sony. I love their PlayStation 5. I love the Insomniac Spider-Man, but come on, Sony, you got to get your act together, man, because pretty soon Disney's going to buy you guys, and then you guys are going to go bye-bye.
Oh, my God.
All right, and that's going to do it with our Amazing Spider-Man 2 franchise. Now, I'm going to ask you guys this, the viewers, the listeners, and Izzy. If No Way Home never existed, if No Way Home didn't have Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, would you still appreciate Amazing Spider-Man 2? Would it still be different to you or the same? That's the question I want to ask you guys. I don't want to ask you, Izzy.
I think for me, I definitely think the movie would have been a little bit more sour, if that makes sense. I think No Way Home really revives Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I love that. And it just has left me wanting to watch him more, even after all these years.
Yep, and it's said that, we may never get his third movie. I'm fingers crossed. I really hope we get it. Fingers crossed, people. But I'm glad we got to see Andrew Garfield come back in No Way Home. I'm sad that we're done with this franchise. We're moving on to Tom Holland next week, and I'm very excited for that because we can talk more Tobey and Andrew when it comes to the No Way Home.
Yeah.
But it's very sad that this Amazing Spider-Man franchise has so much potential, but Sony just butchered it because he wanted to be the MCU so bad. But you have to realize you have to be a movie on your own. So yeah, it's a shame what happened to this franchise. But in the end, I think it all worked out with Andrew's redemption and No Way Home.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did Andrew good at the end of it with No Way Home, which is really happy.
Yep, and that's all you can hope for. That's all you can wish for.
Yep.
All right, and that's going to wrap it for this episode. This Sunday, we're going to have The Flash spoiler-free and spoiler review. We're watching it later today. I am very, very excited. And we're going to have a green screen. We're going to have the Flash poster behind us. And we'll have little posters or maybe some footage. Not from the movie itself, but like maybe clips from the trailers and stuff playing.
Yeah.
Here and there. But I'm very, very excited. Izzy, you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited to see where the story goes. Because, we've seen the trailers. And I'm still not 100% sure where the story's going. Which is exciting for me. Because, it means they didn't reveal too much. So, yes, I am very excited for the movie.
Yep. And as always, take care of others. But take care of yourselves. And we'll catch you next episode. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, guys.